Welcome back, episode number 13 to the One More K podcast, sponsored by Lecker Nutrition. I am so glad to be here. My name is Marcus. I haven't changed my name. Also here today is Ned. Hasn't changed his name either. Good afternoon, Ned.
Yes, I'm going to stay with Ned.
And we have a special guest today. Very exciting to have Florian Lamblin on the show. Good morning, Florian.
Good morning, guys.
I hope I pronounced your name correctly. But with a French.
That's perfect, yes. You can say Florian or Florian as you want.
Perfect. So Florian, quick introduction, of course. We need to know who are you, and we're very excited to have you on the pod. Florian, your title is you are the CEO of UTMB International and Chief Business Development Officer. You are based in Annecy, and you're part
Correct.
of a UTMB group. That's exciting. We have talked about UTMB so much on this pod. We have had a prophecy that we will get UTMB on the pod, and now it is happening. So super cool to have you. And we will, of course, spend a lot of time talking to you about who you are and what's going on in the UTMB world. I've spent some time on your LinkedIn. I mean, you were at Accenture. You were at ASO.
Yes.
Great. I think more exciting, looking at your WhatsApp picture, you're also a runner.
Yes.
So maybe tell us about your running story right now to hear what have been your exciting adventures there.
Sure. So I would say I'm someone who comes from road running, as many people in France and more generally speaking in the world. I think that's a big trend that we see happening, but we'll have time to talk about that later. So I come from trail running. I run many from road running. Sorry, I run marathon, half marathon. I was living in Paris at that time, and then I started like 5-6 years ago to be like, I feel a bit bored by running on the road. Plus, my knees started to be very suffering from having this constant same movement on the road. So I was like, okay, what can I do? So I started to go and run some trails in Ile-de-France. So when I was from Paris, you have to be a bit creative to find some good trails, but there is very good one in Fontainebleau and in these places. So I did my first 2 trails, Eco Trail Paris and Imperial Trail of Fontainebleau, which for me that was my first amazing trail running experiences, and I was like, wow, that's I really like it. I really more enjoy it. Then it was the time that when I moved to UTMB, so it was two and a half years ago, and then I joined a company where everyone was, of course, focused around trail running. I moved to Annecy, I moved to the mountains, so it was much more easier for me to go trail running. So I started to do many races, some local races around my home, some UTMB races, but not only really. I'm really trying to experience every race I can. I'm more focused on distances between 20 and 50 for different reasons, but one of them is because I have 2 young kids that are very demanding, so it's hard for me to do to run more than 3 or 4 hours in the outdoors. So I'll probably go to ultra later on, but this time I'm very happy to focus on these distances. So yeah, I would say I run around 10 events a year, something like that. Some of them are UTMB World Series events, but again, not only. Last event I did was Chianti Ultra Trail by UTMB the month before in Italy. Very, very amazing. So it was just a 25K, but great trail, great atmosphere. I'm on the vineyards, wine at the aid stations that I didn't drink, but just felt very, very local and very special atmosphere. So. So that's a bit my training story, moving slowly but surely to longer distances when I have more time to dedicate.
Now, the question is, do you need to be a trail runner in order to be accepted to UTMB?
No, I don't think so. You have to be, of course, it helps to be a sports enthusiast, and I think close to 100% of the people in the company are sports enthusiasts, but we all come from different backgrounds. We have people that have been living in the Valley of Chamonix since years, and they've been training practitioners for years. And we have also other people that come from other sports. So as you mentioned, I was working for ASO before, so I was more coming from cycling and road running. So I had this strong culture of road. but I really understood trail running, and I think it's strange. That's also what one of the reasons why I joined is because I had this interest in for nature and for trail. So I would say no, it's not. It's more nice to have, but indeed it's good to have the curiosity. If you are not a trail runner, it's good. It's still good to have the curiosity to understand how the community works, things. And try to find some ways to get really rooted in the community, because in my opinion, you cannot organize trail running events without having a deep sense of how the community works, and it helps if you're yourself a trail runner.
I think it's also, I have a very dear friend who lives in Annecy. I think there's going to be quite a few people who look at your LinkedIn and it's like, oh, he lives in Annecy, he's a trail runner, he works for UTMB, this is about as good as it can get.
I know I'm lucky. I mean, when you're a sport enthusiast, an outdoor enthusiast, a trail runner enthusiast, living in Annecy in this part of the world is just a big chance, big opportunity. So yeah, I'm very lucky. You have all the outdoors, many outdoor brands are here. Scott have their headquarters. Salomon have headquarters over there. NAC, your partner, is opening. I mean, many companies open also their offices in Annecy. So it's a big outdoor community that live there. So yes, I can see the mountains close to by my window here. I will probably go and get go for a 1 hour run after this podcast. So yes, I realize I'm really lucky.
It's great.
You should be. Wow, that's great. Is there an internal ranking of UTMB employees who's the best runner?
No. We all know who are the best runners in the company, but we don't do that ranking because that's also a major difference, from my opinion, coming from the road. In my previous company, we had a ranking when we did the Paris Marathon, for instance. The employees were ranked based on their time. That was part of the culture of the company. In trail, it's quite different. And it's not at all about the performance, or at least it's a self-performance that you're doing. But no, we are not comparing our UTMB indexes or performance. We're just saying, yeah, we are happy to have done this, and everyone has his objective. So no, we're not at all comparing, and we can go for a run together, even if we know that we have different levels. We just go for a run, a 1 hour run together, and that's fine. So we're not really in that on that dynamics now.
Great. Thanks for the introduction. Very exciting to have you on the show. Before we dive into, of course, the UTMB section, we have to cover the latest news in the ultra world. So we have some hardcore fans of this podcast who want to hear what's going on in this world, and we're spending a few minutes on this. We had the first update of the week is Mr. Russ Cook, aka the Geezer, the hardest geezer, apologies, who has finished his 10,130 miles run across Africa. Have you been following this, Ned and Florian? What do you think of this major challenge of the hardest geezer?
Well, I literally 20 people sent me this news story. So Florian, I kind of like adventure running. I mean, I live in Singapore, so to run across Singapore is very easy. But I like, the 100K, 100 miles. I always talk about, I love, like, Lazarus Lake is walking across America at the moment, and I adore that. Interestingly, so yes, I mean, I think, he's not a runner. He's a gingerhead guy getting burnt by the sun in Africa. He talks, I don't know if you've heard him, but he's a London geezer. He talks like a geezer, and nothing about him screams runner. And I think that's the juxtaposition. That's why this story, also his name, Hardest Geezer. When he was asked on the interview by BBC, are you the hardest geezer? He said, no, of course not. I just called myself that. Look, this picture, he's wearing a football shirt. I think this is it's Jasmine Paris, Ross Cook, hardest geezer. People who are not runners followed this. And I think that's the amazing thing. And I don't know if you followed his Instagram story, and Florian, I'll be interested, because clearly UTMB is a story as well. He started last April. No one followed him. No one followed him. No one followed him. Blah, 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 blah. And suddenly he got it. And I don't know if you've seen the videos, but he did a video that said a week ago, you should see, it's hilarious. He's on the road in Africa somewhere, and he shouts out, "It's an emergency. Please, please, somebody call every burger shop in Britain, because when I get home, I'm going to eat them all. Thanks, geezer." And it was just brilliant. So that's my kind of little theory about it. He's capturing this unique public appetite now for normal people to do extraordinary things. Florian, what did you take away from Hardest Giza?
Yeah, obviously I followed I followed what he did. He had great coverage on his own social network, but also he had coverage from the BBC, from the Guardian. So really, mainstream media also followed in performance, which really means what it means not only for trail runners, but also for more generally the community, or just everyone. He's really inspirational. I found it also very interesting that he did that for charity. If I'm not mistaken, he raised around 600,000 pounds or something for this. So it's the reason, the objective, the purpose of it is also amazing. And I followed what his storytelling. He's giving a lot of anecdotes. He said that he had trouble at the borders. He had trouble with policemen. So it's really funny at the same time. And I was like, I can really relate it also to running UTMB and running ultra. Of course, it's not the same distance, but when you run 170 miles, it's also a journey. You know, a lot of things happen in your mind. You can have hallucinations. You have to manage your fatigue. You have to manage your nutrition. So it's a lot to manage. So I can only imagine what you had to experience in such a distance, which is ultra.
Exactly, that story part of it. If he had been a US Marine, and I don't pick on US, if he had been an elite soldier, I think people would be like, nah. He actually wrote, he had mental health depression, alcoholic, and gambling debts. And again, he keeps saying, I'm ginger in the sun. Like, nothing about me should be doing this. And I was at the lowest place. And that's the story. And I think you're right. Whether it's couch to 5K, somebody's first 5K, or running across Africa, that's what people want to see now, those real stories.
I was just, anyone watching YouTube, you can see I put up his YouTube channel of Russ Cook. It has now 193,000 followers. His latest video, only uploaded 3 days ago, already has 250,000 views. It's incredible what's been doing. I started watching the videos only this morning, and to be honest with you, I couldn't stop watching it. It's so funny. It is so exciting. His strong British accent is amazing. What he's been doing just in this video, the last one I watched, with police issues, being stopped at the border. I was like, wow, UTMB races are so easy compared to this with just a nice run. And then you have all these issues that police stations are. Again, anyone out there, please follow Russ Cook and watch the videos. It is hilarious and inspiring at the same time.
And it's funny because it makes you feel anybody could do it. Of course, not anybody could run across Africa, but it makes you feel your own adventure is your adventure. Whether that's just running your first kilometer, which might feel crazy hard to you, his message is, I can do it. Come on, let's go. And I love that.
Absolutely. And it says a lot also on their sports, on trail running. At the end, of course, it's a challenge, but it's also very easy just to put a pair of sneakers, get to nature, go and discover the forest next door, the mountain next door. It's at the same time very easy to connect, to reconnect, and to find your own challenge. And of course, at the end, very challenging because you are doing something that's ask you a lot in terms of physical and mental performance. So I like this duality in our sports. That's really a big difference versus road running, for instance, or other sport that I know.
And Marcus, I just had about an hour ago thought. So I don't have a very serious demeanor, Florian. I like having fun. I normally run quite far on the weekends, like 60, 70K. I like ultra. This weekend I'm running a bit less because I've just done a detox. I've been away for 2 weeks, not much energy. Marcus, I'm going to run the length of Singapore, top to bottom. It's 30 kilometers. And I'm going to put #softest Giza as my little tribute to the hardest Giza. I'm going to say softest Giza, because the reality is everyone's reality is their reality. Just do something. That's all that matters, right? That's all that matters.
Thank you. I can't wait for the slowest Giza. We're moving from Africa over to Nepal. Over the weekend, we had an exciting race happening there. The race name was Manjushri Trail Race Nepal, the only 100-mile race in Nepal. Again, it's important for us to highlight Asian races here. I know there are other races happening as well, but this was an exciting race in Nepal. I watched some videos. I saw some pictures, incredible scenery through the landscapes and villages of Nepal. I put up here, anyone watching out there, the results of the 100 miles. We have exactly 13 finishes of this 100-mile race. So a lot of DNFs and only a few finishes. You can see that the winner was Arjun Kulungrai. Many have a last name Rai in Nepal. So Arjun Kulung Rai finished the 100 miles in 26 hours and 52 minutes. Second came Alistair Masson from the UK, and third came Bija Ranja Maga from Nepal as well. In general, seems like a very strong Nepal starting field. I'm sure that getting to Kathmandu is not the easiest, but yeah, exciting to see this 100-mile happening in Nepal.
And Florian, when we come on to UTMB to talk about Asia, Nepal, I don't know if you've been, but truly one of the most amazing. It's hard to get to. I understand, not easy to do a race, but I'm sure you've noted Sunmaya Buddha, the female Asian Nepal athlete who I think is coming to win one of the big dance. I think she's coming to Chamonix, and she was second in, I think, CCC before. So maybe when we get to the UTMB, your dreams or thoughts about putting on a UTMB on the greatest stage, which must be the Himalayas.
Absolutely. And we there is also a lot of young Nepalese runners coming, like the Anita Rai or Priya Rai. They're 21, 23 years old. They already have a 670 UTMB index or something. So they're already really strong, and they're only 21, 22 years old. So there is a lot of things coming. And of course, we have the stories of Dawa Sherpa or Sangye Sherpa also, who are very, very, very strong trail runners and very also enthusiasts of the circuit. But yes, there is amazing stories to tell around Nepalese runners and races.
I'm super glad you know about them, and I think the like many, being unfortunately one of the poorest nations on earth, many sports have that drive that people can use a sport to bring them out. America has based a lot of its sports on people being brought out of financial difficulties with sport. And I think, the natural sport for Nepal is trail running, and the people there are wildly talented, wildly motivated. And, being a huge fan of Asia, would love to see them come to the top steps of the greatest races.
Last but not least, highlighting quickly the Cuc Phuong Jungle Path race in Vietnam. It's another very good race in Vietnam. We had some top finishers there, Tara Savage as a female and Thien Vo Nguyen from Vietnam. Crushing is a very tough race. I ran it before. It's in the jungle. But Cuc Phuong, shout out to that. And of course, we had a good friend of the pod, Jean. He's a French guy living in Ho Chi Minh doing a 12-hour run in the hot city of Ho Chi Minh City. Here's a picture of him. In the middle of the picture, you can see him looking at his watch, and accompanied by 40 people who ran with him the 12-hour race for self-supported race in Ho Chi Minh City. Good luck.
I believe he got to 123 kilometers just on his own. I love these non-races where you just set yourself your own challenge and you go off. And while 123K is not going to challenge Alexander Sorokin's unbelievable almost 320K, that's for 24 hours. It's still a fantastic result. And I'm going to say, Marcus, probably the furthest anybody has run in Ho Chi Minh in 12 hours.
That's very true. These things are happening more and more in Asia. We're so excited to see this. I can't wait. Okay, that's the news section. That's a wrap. Thank you for spending some time on the latest from Africa to Asia. Moving back to France, Florian. Moving back to UTMB. So I think all of us are wondering, what is the structure of UTMB? Me, I'm a German engineer. I need to understand structures first. Let's dig into quickly, just briefly, your universe. How do you look at the UTMB world? And then especially, how does it matter for Asia? Go.
Sure. Yes. So we are today 60, 70 people company. We grew quite strongly these past 2 or 3 years, I would say. 3 years ago, we were only 10 in the company. So we were a very, very small company. And then, it was, before and pre-COVID times. And then after COVID, we decided to partner with this American partner that you all know, which is the Ironman Group. So they have become in 2021 a minority shareholder of UTMB Group. So we're still an independent company, but with another shareholder. And together we decided to build a new sports system, the UTMB World Series that you know, based on the development of new sports system and new races over the world. So we have 42 events in the series right now on different models. Some of the events, we own them. We own many of the events in Europe, in North America. In Asia, we own Translantao by UTMB, for instance. And then we also have other models. So we have models where we are operating an event for a government, for instance, or we have models where we franchise events. So if I'm taking Asia, for instance, Ultra Training or Ultra Trail Mountain or Transjeju by UTMB are franchise events, which means that we don't own the event. They're operated by the local organizer. It's usually organizer that we have known for many times. Transjeju were part of Ultra Trail World Tour in the past. So it's been, I mean, we have 10 years relationship with some of them. So they operate free their events. They just need to follow some guidelines on operations, respect of the environment, this kind of thing that are important for us. But at the same time, we promote the fact that they keep a local atmosphere and local savor that is really important for us. So this is what we are. So we are based in both Annecy and Chamonix. I would say we have two headquarters right now, and we also have local offices in different countries. So we have offices in the UK, in Spain, in Italy, in Switzerland, and in Hong Kong. So we have a team in Hong Kong managing Translanter by UTMB, and also the business that we operate in Asia. So the way we work together is that we split a little bit the geography with our partner Ironman. So Ironman is more focusing on North America or Oceania because they are strong in these countries historically. And on their side, we're more focusing on Europe, Latin America, Middle East, and Asia, because again, we have strong links in this part. Back in 2016 to 2020, during the Ultra Trail World Tour, we had many races in Asia at that time. So we have built a strong network over there. So we are developing ourselves, for instance, China, Thailand, or South Korea, where we are right now. So yeah, in a few minutes, it's how we organize. So it's 70%. It's not a big company, but it's not a small company neither. So we're a little bit in between, trying to put some energy to process everything, because we need to, now that we operate with different models, 42 events. But we still live like a startup today, I would say, with people managing many different things. And I think what characterizes all the people of the company, that yes, we are all sports enthusiasts, and we are all very, very, a lot of us are very entrenched, very rooted in the community. Trail runners ourselves, so we are trying to stay very close to the community, despite or in parallel of the growth that we are doing. I think that's
that's a really interesting point. Growth is hard, right? So we talk about trail running here, but we're a kind of weirdly business focused trail running show, which sometimes is weird. Growth is hard. I used to surf a lot, and these little surf brands, it was one surfer starting Billabong, and you hear the stories of how they suddenly got big and people claim that they lost their way, but growth is hard. So I'm interested, you went from 10 to 60. How has that been? Because, you all love sport, you all love trail, you all love the sport. How's it been managing growth?
Yeah, it's been challenging, and UTMB was created in 2003 by Catherine and Michel, who are very, I talk to them every day. I know how they are. They're very moved by and transported by the fact of driving sports, community. They really, they never had any dividend in the past for what they did. They just had a decent salary, but that's it. They're really doing it for the development of their sports. They're really moved by that. So for them, as well as founder of the company, it has been a challenge to manage a company that grows, and we have to manage its growth. It's all for the good, but we have to manage it. So yeah, it's been, I would say, internally a lot of processes to set, because it's no longer possible to have 10 people that manage just all of them manage everything in the company. No, we have to put some processes, and externally we had and we still have to prove that our intention haven't changed, our values haven't changed. When Michel has founded ITRA 10 or 15 years ago, he created also they put together the values of trail running, and these values are still valid today. So we just need to show and prove that we are still pursuing these values.
Sorry to interrupt. I don't doubt, Michel and the Palettis, I'm sure the values are there, but it is when you go from 10 to 60, That's exactly as you say. That's the challenge.
Exactly, and that's our big challenge today. Manage to show that it's possible to grow and at the same time stay close to our purpose, our intent, our mission, which haven't changed. So we need to, of course, the last few years we were very focused on the development of the series. So it took a lot of energy to develop these events. We are going to continue to develop, but at the same time, now we are also focusing on demonstrating what are our values and showing the community that yes, we can be bigger than before, but at the same time, we are still as much dedicated protecting the community, protecting the environment, protecting the links with the territory as we have always been. So it's both a challenge, but also what's exciting. I think that's really the momentum we are in for now, showing that we are still very very rooted and very committed.
Yeah, you being as a CEO of International, I don't want to know your KPIs, that's internal, but what do you personally focus on for the next 12 months, 24 months? Like, what do you mostly care about? Where do you set your focus?
Sure. So I would say different things. First thing is that in terms of development, we want to continue to develop, but we want to develop in priority where communities ask us to be. I'm explaining. Today, the sports system of the UTMB World Series, you have to collect a running stone to get access to UTMB Mont Blanc. So when you're a Thailandese runner or when you're a South Korean runner, it's easy. You have one event or two events in your country. It's easy. You don't have to take the plane or to do 3,000 miles to get your running stone. It's not the case when you're in Japan or in Malaysia, for instance. When you're in Malaysia, Malaysia, you can go to Betong in Thailand. It's not that far. But when you're Japanese, you have to go to travel to South Korea or to China to get your running stone. So we want to be where the communities are growing, to minimize the impact, the carbon footprint of this guy getting a running stone, and also because just the community is asking for a UTMB event in their country. So I would say I will focus, if I'm taking the example of Asia, on these communities like Japan, Malaysia, maybe Indonesia and the Philippines, which would probably be the next one afterwards. So in terms of development, that will be my focus. And then at the same time, my second focus will be make sure that these events that we have developed and that have grown over the past 2 or 3 years remain amazing events in terms of runner experience, proving that we can continue to organize events with 5,000 participants with a strong experience. I think Doin Thailand is a good example, but if you take Vietnam Mountain Marathon, which is not UTMB World Series, they have 5,000 participants, even more today, and they still deliver a good experience. So that's what we need to prove with their events, that we can continue to grow and deliver a good runner's experience. And my third focus will be to develop more links. And again, I will restrict to Asia, but would be the case for all other communities, but develop more links with the Asian communities, which means building links with the running clubs, with local communities, give back to the communities, link with charities. So these are important stuff that we couldn't focus 100% of our energy on these past 2 years because we were focused on development. But now we're also focused on delivering and be attentive to what the community asks in parallel of our, I would say, development and growth.
And maybe just to ask, so I listened to Paul Huddle on single track. So my background is I was Ironman. I went to Kona 15 years ago. I spent a long time in Ironman. And I'll be honest, so I'm 56, so I'm a bit older. And, I suppose I grew up with the stories of the original 12 guys on the beach in Hawaii or Gordy Ainsleigh at Western State. So forgive my olden view. I'm also a business guy. Money has to come. I absolutely get it. And, we're in it's a delicate business because trail is soulful. Money isn't soulful, at its core. And we smash these two together. So when I listen to Paul Huddle, he said, we don't just go to a country and acquire races. We don't just steam in because, the reality is after the whole Wham Gary thing, people are like, oh, Iron Man just steam in and crush people and buy races. And Paul Huddle was like, this just couldn't be further. Like you said, we spend 10 years going through it. But I'd love to hear from you. When you think about Asia, how do you acquire races?
Yeah, that's so first of all, again, China, Thailand, Korea are countries where we don't acquire races. We franchise races, which is a bit different. But if I'm taking the example of Translatao, which is a race that we acquired, yes, Translatao, we have been We've known Sabrina and Clément, the owners of Transfrontier by UTMB, for years. We've had discussion with them in the past. They were the distributor of Live Trail in Asia for us, so they were already part of the company in a sense. So when we acquired Transfrontier by UTMB, it was kind of natural. They were out of 2 very complicated years with COVID. There was 3 years without edition of Transfrontier by UTMB, and at the same time we had strong links. We knew each other very well, so it was kind of natural. And then they became employees of UTMB Group. So we continued to work with them. The events remained the same. We just brought the UTMB system and guidelines, and we tried to elevate the event on some aspect. But it continued to be operated by Sabrina and Clément and their team. So it didn't really change anything for the runners, I would say. For the other countries where we franchise the events, and even if we may have some acquisition in Asia in the future, it's always the same. We are trying to find partners that we can trust, and sometimes it comes from the long-term relationship we've had with them. So Transjeju is a good example. We are friends now with Anne and Gambo from Transjeju. Sabrina, who is managing Asia, went to their homes many times, had dinner with them many times. So they're really friends. Ningha is the same. They were part of Ultra Trail World Tour in the past. And then sometimes we have other stories like Ultra Trail Mountain. They were new in the I would say in the landscape, but we met them. It took some time. Well, we took some time to have discussions, to trust each other. But then at the end, we're like, okay, we have something is happening. We think that we trust each other very well. We think that there is a good story to build. We like they're willing to develop traveling in a new province in China, Shaanxi. That was not a province known for trail running event, but with amazing mountains. We were there for the weekend. We're like, oh wow, these Shaanxi mountains are amazing. Let's do something, and at the end, it's a good success story. After 2 years, they have 5,000 participants in China. It became one of so Mountain is next month, and we have 8 of the top 10 Chinese runners in men and women running that race. So it means that we managed together to build a race that is part of the big races for the Chinese runners. So I would say it always comes from a local project, a local organizing committee or team with whom we have good links, and we decide together to build something. So it always comes from the bottom.
That makes sense. Maybe I don't know if you can answer this. How often does a race just call you up and go, "Please buy us"? Does that happen?
It's not as simple as that, but I would say that we have, I don't know, every week I have a race calling me and say, what can we do with the UTMB World Series? That's a frequency. So it can be on different models. They don't know anything about the model. Do we acquire? Do we franchise? Do we make a joint venture? All models we are open to every model. But yeah, every week on average, we have a race that asks the question. So together we evaluate the projects, and we see if it's possible, or not. So usually, I would say 80% of the time, it comes from direct requests from people who would like to work with us, and we probably say yes to one project out of 10, because we are selective and we want to be sure that our expectation and our vision match. And sometimes, I would say 20% of the cases, because it's countries where we are a bit more pushy, because we need to have more presence here. I will say, for instance, the UK, Italy, Spain, that are countries where we need to have more events. We are sometimes more proactive, and we contact more spontaneously organizers who say, why not doing something together? But I would say 80% of the time, it's carried by it comes from a request from a local organizer. Plus, again, we are not. It's not. We are very much in the network of these races in Asia, for instance. We know from our past being operating Live Trail in Asia from Ultra Trail World Tour. We know many race organizers personally, so it's more discussions. We're discussing in Vietnam, we're discussing in Malaysia, and we're like, Malaysia. I know the owners of the 3 main Malaysian races. I've seen them many times in Thailand, in China. They are coming to all the races. So every time we go to events, we're like, oh, you're here. Oh, good to see you. What about UTMB World Series? It's always the same story, and at the end, sometimes it goes further because we decide the good moment to do so. So it's I would say it's natural, except in 20% of the cases where we are more proactive in some specific countries.
I was about to ask you to dig more into Asian countries, because earlier you were just brushing through some of those names, but now you already have mentioned Malaysia, Vietnam. I think many of us are always curious to see where you put the UTMB flag next. I'm sure you cannot give away any kind of confidential informations, but maybe a follow-up question to this is more, how do you decide what's a good country? Are you more interested in the absolute number of runners, or are you more interested into the growth that's happening, sometimes from a very low start?
Yeah, I would say both. Of course, we need to be there when there is big absolute numbers. That's the reason why we started with. If I'm taking Asia, we started with China. I mean, we actually started with Thailand because China was still closed in 2021 and 22. So we started with Thailand because we had a story, and now Thailand is the number 2 or 3, depending when you position Japan, but country in Asia for traveling. In short distances, in OCC, Thailand is the number 5 country. So it's a big traveling event for these distances right now. So we started obviously with the big numbers with Thailand and with China because it's more obvious. So if we follow this logic, Japan should also be a good shot in the future. It's more tricky to find the good model, but I'm quite confident that in 25 or 26 we'll have an event. We'll have at least an event in Japan, and then there is growing numbers. That's also something we are very attentive to. We are not, for us, we are a series where we want to have geographical representativity. That's the reason why we're also targeting Africa or Latin America, even if the number is lower, because we think that's also our mission to be more representative and allow someone that comes from Mauritius, from South Africa, from Vietnam or from Argentina to be able to go to UTMB Mont Blanc and to have a UTMB experience in their country. So if I'm following this logic, the next logical countries in Asia would be Malaysia and Vietnam, which are the two. I mean, Vietnam is already big numbers, but still, I would define them as growing communities. So Vietnam, Malaysia are obvious one, and then again we follow what's happening in Indonesia, in India, and in the Philippines because these are probably the next country. So I would say yes, it can also be where there is growing communities. What we want at the end is that we can build an event where we can have at least 1,500 participants, which makes it a decent model for everyone. But if I'm talking about the countries we are talking now, yes, this it's the day we have an event in Malaysia, I have absolutely zero doubt on the fact that we managed to have 2,500 participants in these events. When we see a Malaysia Mountain Trail Festival or Cameron Ultra Trail in Malaysia, they already have big numbers over there. So
I'm going to thank you. That's great. And we are wishing you best of luck. I think we're going to hear some news soon. We have some rumors on the ground, so exciting to see it all coming together.
I saw you had some guests in the past as well on your podcast.
Good friends in India, good friends in Malaysia. We're going to have next week Vietnam coming. So yeah, we're all connected, and it's great to again connect the world. Switching gears a tiny bit, putting ourselves more into the shoes of an athlete. And episode 3, we've done some work to compare the cost of a US athlete to a Vietnamese athlete. And you can see on the screen, anyone watching, also you, Florian, you can see this is a comparison put together by, this is a list of cost by Iron Far of a US athlete, spending money on shoes, running fuel, race items, going to Western States, basically assuming that this is a professional athlete that has to go to Western States in order to become a professional athlete, because Western States is in America one of the biggest races, as you know. So it's basically how much does this athlete have to pay to become professional, get sponsorship, move on into the career. We did some work, how much it would cost for the Vietnamese athlete to do the same thing in order to go to UTMB and hopefully come top 3, top 5 to progress further. You can see the total cost is $11,838 for the US athlete. And then GDP adjusted, it's $155,000 for the Vietnamese athlete. So basically 13 times more for Vietnamese to become professional than for an American. I would love to hear your thoughts on how can you as UTMB address this issue of inequalities and economic development, and how can you then support athletes from emerging markets to rise in UTMB world?
That's a great question, and that's a great study, and I would be very happy also to have to that I can see it more deeply, because I think that's really interesting. I think one of the purpose of our circuit is also to be as inclusive as possible. So we already took some measures for to have more women with so this pregnancy policy. We are going to have a adaptive athletes policy. So inclusivity, we put many things in this word, but it also includes people that come from different countries with less resources. You're right. What we've done in these past 2 years, that we had an athlete support program where we provided support. I mean, it's not $5,000, but on average, it was around $1,000, between $700 and $1,000 to some selected athletes to be able to navigate and go to some events or go to UTMB Mont Blanc. So at the end last year, we spent around $100,000 to just on this specific program to support some athletes. Some of them coming from developed countries, but a lot of them also coming from developing countries or more emerging countries, I would say. This year, we are shifting a little bit of more of focus, and we are going to focus probably more on younger athletes. So younger athletes and young promising athletes that may come from these countries, and our role will be to identify in all the geographical areas some promising athletes that have demonstrated their ability through good scores. I mean, for their level, maybe on shorter distances, and that could become really good runners in the future. But to do that, they need a nudge to be able to go to the next threshold. So we are shifting to that, because I think our mission is also to help this new generation. So yes, that's exactly where we are right now. We are trying to scout and identify people, especially, I mean, Asia is a good example, that are doing good scores, that are young. I was mentioning the two Nepalese girls earlier. That's not a coincidence. These are young girls that we are watching. We're like, okay, what are they doing? Are they promising? And if we feel they're the good person, they could qualify to this support program that we put in place. But yes, we decided to shift a little bit more to younger athletes, promising athletes, because we think that they're even further from being able to go to Western States or from UTMB. But that's a good point. Last year, Dointanon gave golden tickets to the Western States, but some of the athletes that were given the golden tickets couldn't go because of financial problem. It's not the same coming from Javelina and go to Western States than going from Dointanon and go to Western States. So yes, we still have work to do on this one, but I think this program that we are going to build will be a good step.
I think it is super interesting that I suppose there's this impression that, you guys have, you're the undisputed kings of trail running in terms of race organization. And I think people would assume you're rolling in money, right? I don't know if you are or if you're not, right? And you should be able to help all of these, aspiring athletes. Obviously, I think you're doing the right thing, like selecting a few athletes, and maybe just to move on to something because listening to Paul Huddle, listening to you, like Paul Huddle said this thing, we're passionate trail runners trying to do right. Now, I was in Ironman. When private equity brought Ironman, the disillusionment was pretty heavy pretty quickly, and it came down to a bunch of things, right? Prize money sucked for the pros, the one and dones were everything, all this type of stuff. But when you talk to the people who ran Ironman, it was all still good people. And I'm interested, Florian, is that how do I'm sure you have a good relationship with Ironman, but and they're a minority, but I'm sure they have some say. How do you balance protecting that soul, like sponsoring young Nepal athletes or, changing prize money? Because for pros, do you think about that? Do you think not just about the dollars? Do you think about how do we give away some dollars or give away some economic upside or some value to keep knowing? Look, I don't want to say Ironman doesn't have the best reputation. It just is. How do you think about that? Because it's a very delicate balance.
Of course, and it was especially a challenge in the US community, because we know that there is some image challenges over there. Indeed, I know very well my counterparts at Ironman. Paul Huddle is my counterpart at Ironman, so we talk on a weekly basis. We are absolutely 100% aligned on everything we do. And I can really testify, he's an amazing sports enthusiast, passionate, really moved by the development of the sports, of anti-doping, of being more rooted in the community. That's something that it's inside him. I would say that not the dilemma, but the challenge we have to solve today is that we need to be a company that makes money, because we have 70 people that work for the company, and we have to pay salaries at the end, right? And we lost. I mean, it's been the first year where we've been winning money in 2023. Before that, we always lost money. 22, we lost lots of money by investing. So I would like also to demystify the fact that UTMB is big money. No, UTMB has lost money or was break even for 20 years before starting to win money last year and be able to just to hire new people and develop the sport. So yes, when I hear what can you do about prize money, all that thing, yes, we'll do, and we'll make announcement of prize money in the next few weeks, but we need to do it in accordance with the development of our own company and the development of our sport. So yes, it will come, but it needs to come at a pace that makes sense also from the perspective of a company that also needs to pay salaries. And same on the initiative for environment, for instance. I think we did many things, maybe not big actions on these aspects these past 2 years, but we did what we could do at our level. Now that it's getting a bit easier, I would say, we will have more abilities to do more actions and do more or bigger action, I would say. But we decided to focus on many small actions that are very, very necessary, maybe not the most visible, but very quick wins that we know have impacts on races and on runners. Now, yes, maybe we'll have more space to do more shiny actions, which are not what I recommend to do always. We have to do shiny action, but also sometimes more things in the shadow, but are necessary. But I think the community asks now that we show that we can have a big positive impact, which we'll be able to do now that we have a little bit more surface to do so. But yes, UTMB has never been a company that has won a lot of money, unlike many people and observers would like to say.
And first of all, so I ran a startup business for 8 years. It didn't work. I know how hard. So the fact that you guys turned a profit, well done. Like that, honestly, straight up. And I know that comes with challenges. Like, and you're right. Maybe Ironman over the long run is the right thing to get you there. And it's interesting because you're right. I mean, I don't know what other people think, but I bet you if you ask your average, I'm not going to say new to trail runner person, but person who's new, will just be like, oh yeah, UTMB makes millions and millions and millions of dollars. They must be rolling in it. Why are they hoarding all the cash in their houses in Annecy or Chamonix, right? Like, and it's great to hear the reality that you guys are still. I'm surprised it was only 10 people. So it's good to see. It's good.
Catherine and Michelle are still driving a small electric Renault Zoe, and they're going by bike to the office. Their life haven't changed at all. They're still dressing the same. Really, people have stayed the same. So I think when we discuss face to face with people, they understand. When they come to Chamonix and they see them, they're like, okay, now we understand. But it's true that there is this image that we need to get rid of. And talking about Ironman, yes, they're. I mean, when we partnered together 2 years ago, they were new in traveling, so they had to know a little bit the codes. But now I can really say that 2 years after, even if we still do some mistakes sometimes, and we still, and of course, and we need to adjust, and sometimes we're sorry for making some action that were not relevant or done properly. But I can really say that they're doing things well. They're learning a lot. And the fact that Paul Huddle, for instance, is one of the face of traveling for Ironman right now means a lot. He's probably one of the most rooted guy in the community. And I think it says a lot on the mentality of Ironman on traveling right now. They know that they come from triathlon and other sports, but they're learning a lot. And I think they've learned a lot from us, UTMB, on how to behave in the traveling community, even if it's still not perfect.
And I will say, I mean, I think I'm almost the same age as Paul Huddle. I followed Paul Huddle in the 90s. He is the OG. He did Western States. And when you listen to, so it was so interesting to listen to him. And he was really passionate, right, about, yes. And he said, did UTMB make mistakes? Yes. Does every business make mistakes? Yes. But do we have the heart and soul and the belief that we are here to do the right things? Yes. Is the path perfect? No, it's not. But the soul is the right thing. It is. And you're right. Look, that's how it is.
And that's fine. And we know that we are under the radar because we are bigger than maybe other actors. So we have to prove even more than other actors when we do things. We know that every action is scrutinized, every action that we do in the trail running world, every move we make will be analyzed in a way. It's natural, and we cannot prevent people from doing that. But it means that we need to prove and show and speak even, twice as much as we can, to prove and to show our intentions, and that we haven't lost any of our values and purpose in the way. But it's fine. It just gives us we have learned a lot in these past few months of these different crises of changes we had, that we have to demonstrate more, show more, prove more, and that's fine. We're just adjusting our action. We know why we are doing it. Now we need to prove it to the community.
Last year's UTMB was one of the first ones where I really got into it. I was in Hanoi at the time. Because you have this amazing live stream, I was basically watching it the entire time. I was even watching it during my date with my now wife. She was very upset that I can watch UTMB even at dinner, and I was spending more time on my phone than on talking to her. We're married now, so all good. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is you have done amazing work in introducing new technologies to UTMB, especially live streaming. UTMB live is a big thing now. You're probably doing it almost all of the events. What new technologies are you going to utilize going forward to make this an even more accessible, data-destroying industry for the next years to come?
Sure. First of all, I'd like to mention that we like to defend ourselves as a tech company. Why? Because Catherine and Michel, they have IT backgrounds. They studied IT at university back in the 70s probably 1970s. So they were one of the early adopters of computers. So they've already been driven by that. UTMB success is also linked to the fact that they managed to do SEO and good referencing on websites back in the early 200. They understood how it works before many people. So they had big success and 700 person on the first edition of UTMB because also of that. We have a part of our company that is LiveTrail, a subsidiary that is LiveTrail. LiveTrail is a tech company. It's developers that develop a system, a tracking system that is also a race management tool. So LiveTrail is really like the tech part of our company. And the developer of LiveTrail also are developers for other purposes. They have developed the website of all the event that we have. All the development we do it in-house. That's a bit of specificity of our company. That's also a strength because we are very agile and we can adjust everything. UTMB Live, when you follow UTMB Mont Blanc, so you follow the live production, the video, and you also follow it on the website. The website, its functionalities, its design has been 100% designed and coded by our internal developers. So this is something we do ourselves. UTMB Live is something we have developed with an external company, OSL, Outdoor Sports Live, managed by Sébastien Chéniaud, former trail runner. So we do it together. They do the production, but we do lots of the code that is behind. In the future, I think there is, for us, a great adventure ahead of us on LiveTrail, and especially in Asia. LiveTrail we probably, so LiveTrail, for those who don't know, are a race management tool for the organizer, so tracking system, but also just race management. When you operate a race in your command center, you have LiveTrail, and it can predict when the runners should arrive at the station, give some alerts when the runners haven't arrived yet, and it's a tool that says to the race director, "Oh, do something here because the runner should have arrived, something hasn't happened," and you have a checklist to fill. So it's a great instrument for race organizer, but it's also a good instrument for followers and for runners because you can download the app, you can follow where your runner is or should be. If he has activated the GPS on his device, you can follow exactly where he is. So it's a good tool also for the community. So we like to use LiveTrail as a community tool in the future. If I'm taking Asia, it means that we'd like to have LiveTrail used as much as possible by many organizers for a very, very limited price, but more okay, this is more like a service that we provide to many race organizers because we think it provides them good service for race management, but also good service for the community, and with that build a community, a stronger community in Asia, linked by this live trail, I would say, functionalities across all races, not only UTMB World Series races, but all, let's say, UTMB index races or all races in Asia. So yes, live trail will probably play a big role in the development of our technology, but technology, I would say, for to create more links with the community.
It's wild how good live streaming you've made it. Like, it's wild. Like, I again, being old, I was happy if I used to be able to read about it in a magazine the next day. The quality is outstanding, I must say.
Yeah, it's quite good. It's really a challenge to broadcast an ultra. It's also a challenge to broadcast a 40K like the Golden Trail Series do, for instance. But broadcasting an ultra is a big challenge because you have to find solution for the nights. You have depending on the events, you have X% of the routes that is where you have coverage. In some races, we start with a map that says, okay, only 10% of the routes can be broadcasted because otherwise there is no coverage. So, okay, what do we do? So we need to put some Starlinks. We need to put some Wi-Fi repetitor or something like that. So yes, it's a big technology challenge. And at the end, we managed to, with different device, mountain bikes, GoPro and helmets, runners, drones, we managed to have something that, and also additional content. We managed to have something that is interesting and also is an interest for many broadcasters. In China, we have iQIYI now that broadcasts UTMB Mont Blanc and all the UTMB World Series races that are broadcasted because they found it's qualitative enough and it is good content. And I would say that it's not a nice to have; it's a must-have to have a broadcast that is high quality if you want to be broadcasted. Otherwise, iQIYI or L'Equipe or BBC tomorrow will say, "I'm sorry, guys, but we won't broadcast it. It's not qualitative enough." So we have to do it if we want to have the chance to be broadcasted.
Looking ahead a bit, there are technologies coming out with VR, AR, Apple Vision Pro goggles. We have talked about this in an episode before, how this new VR world could really change the way we experience the outdoors. So the question for you is, how will UTMB utilize VR? Or do you think VR could also be a potential threat to the outdoor sport experience?
We don't really use VR today, I would say. At least if we use it, I don't know. But no, I think we are very at the beginning of the story with VR. I think it's an opportunity, definitely for us. It's just that it has not been a terrain that we have investigated so far. But why not? I think we need to explore. And as a tech company, as we like to define ourselves, we should be able to explore this terrain. But we need also to ask ourselves, what for? Is it to create more links between the community, between the runners and their followers? Is it to create, I don't know, to give runners the possibility to immerse themselves in the UTMB conditions before the race, 1 month before the race, like Zwift or Kinomap are doing for cycling? I don't know, maybe. It's just that I think we are still very far from it. Maybe we will come, but I think we have many more other challenges to solve before, but maybe. But yes, we are absolutely not in that exploring. We are not exploring that for the moment.
There we go. Well, look, we should start to. I know we got an hour of your time. It's been almost an hour. We should start to let you go. One last question before we finish off the show, or if Marcus has one more. I'm never a fan of predicting the future, but it's been 20 years for the Palettes so far, right? And we are in my opinion, the greatest explosion of growth in endurance outdoor sports there has ever been. What's the dreams for the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, so I won't talk personally for Catherine and Michel, even if I'm pretty sure they will still be there because they're really passionate about what they're doing. They have their kids also in the company that also are pursuing the family dream, I would say. But I would say the dream for us would be that we develop our sports, that's I think our number one mission, that we have developed our sport in a way that is always more inclusive. So today we have 33% of women in the circuit. I hope that in the future we will be 50-50. We start to be in Tarawera, for instance, we are 50-50. In shorter distances, we are close to 50-50. So we are getting to it. But I dream, and I think our dream is to be more active in that part. We hope that we'll be inclusive for many aspects, for disabled people, for that will be a sport that is that is appealing for young people. We see more and more the younger generation coming, but how do we make people that are today 15, 16, 18 years old go to trail running and to ultra distances, build a path, be more inclusive to all kind of people. So I think that's really a first dream. To be able to manage the growth of UTMB, but also the growth of our sport in a way that stays very positive in terms of impact for the environment. I think that's a change we always need to demonstrate. We know where we come from. We come from the nature. We are all close to nature, and we are all nature enthusiasts, and we have this eco-friendly mentality, I would say, in trail running. So we need to prove that, and always develop in a way that stays protective and respectful of nature. So if I'm projecting myself in 10 years, I would say yes, our circuit will probably have grown. We'll be where the communities are. We'll be inclusive. We'll be respectful of our territory, and we'll be always even more respectful of our environment. And the community will be recognized by the community for doing so. And we have elevated the whole sports. We will have done it not only for us, but for the whole trail running community, should they be organizers, partners, runners, followers. I think that's really our mission, just to elevate the sport, more generally speaking.
Merci beaucoup, Florian. This is been fantastic for having you on this episode. Thank you for sharing all the interesting insights. I think it's worth mentioning that before the recording, you said there's no question that cannot be asked. So we, I think, appreciate the transparency and the willingness to share your plans and where UTMB is going. We're all rooting for the sport, so every stakeholder is important to us, and hence I think it's been fantastic to have you here. And I'm sure we're going to get back on the show eventually once you have more to share about technology, new markets, and so on.
Of course, and let's stay tuned on next announcements, probably the next few weeks or months, because there is going to be things to say on the Asian market. So I'll be happy to come back or to have a conversation with you guys. But anyway, very very. Big thanks for the invitation. I'm very happy to share some of the insights that I may have with the Asian community.
And it's good. I mean, I'm I really like to hear that. It's still a small business. It's not this faceless corporate that's marching through the world, gobbling up the sport. It's just a bunch of good people running in the hills and trying to make a living out of it. That's what you do.
Exactly. I think that's everything that links all of us, you guys, you that are listening to it, that we are natural lovers, sports lovers. We like just to put a pair of sneakers and go to nature. We all share the same passion. So that's what I like, especially in this small traveling community that is growing, but that's remained a small community.
And like all humans, not perfect. We do good things, we make mistakes, we move forward, but the interests are aligned. It's a good thing.
Absolutely, and we're always open again to know how to act more perfectly, and that's also through this kind of conversation that we learn how to be more perfect and to act as we should act.
So if you want to learn more about Asia, there's a podcast called One More K. You can just listen to it, just in case. Wonderful. So now we come to the last part of this recording, this episode. We have Ned giving us his drop of wisdom inspiration. Usually Ned sends it to me beforehand, quite in advance, so I have the chance to read it. But today he sends it to me 1 minute before the podcast. So I have not been able to read it myself. So I'm very excited to hear Ned's drop of wisdom inspiration. Florian, you're more than welcome to stay on and listen to Ned's few words of inspiration. Ned, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah. This one, I actually wrote it a while ago, but forgot to send it. Anyway, this one's called Goats. In Nepal, walking to Mustang, the highest kingdom on the map. Trail, on the mountainside, it's very slippy. Sheer drop, long way down. The path, wide enough for a human. One human, just me. A herd of goats, come the other way. There's no room to pass. They're running. What to do? It was super exposed. I couldn't step off. I freeze. Goats ran at me. And like a flash, they seem to transcend gravity. They skip on the almost sheer mountainside, off the path. One starts to slide down the mountain, but he grabs at nothing with his hoofs. And like that, they were gone. Time stood still. I thought they would fall or what would happen? My heart racing. I go on. Then my foot slips. I almost tumble. I'm not a goat, am I? I can't make time stand still. We talk about goats, Killian, Courtney, Scott, and Trayson, 11 Western States wins. What do they have? Not hoofs, but an ability to make it look easy, natural, effortless. Even when they use effort, it's effortless. It seems almost magical, mystical. How? It's not physical, it's inner soul they have. It's because just like the real goats, the mountain is their natural place. They spent so much of their time there, so much of their life, where their spirit feels most free. They seem to transcend, just like the goat I saw, and we should all learn from them. But how can we all be goats? By being like a goat. More time out there, just being. No watch, no training, no Strava. Just be a goat on the mountain trail. Falling, not falling, feeling, without hoofs and with our mind. Until one day, time stands still. We are as one. Unconscious competence. That's what we are all after. No thinking, just doing. If you want to be a goat, then be like a goat. Live on the trail, and you can be the greatest of all time for yourself. See you out there, Ned.
Thank you, Ned. That's great. As usual,
Thank you.
We hope to see more Asian goats coming to UTMB in France. Excited about the future. Thank you both for being on this podcast. Really appreciate it, and speak to you soon.